Hi, welcome to the Dr. Lisa Solcenti podcast. I'm Dr. Lisa, and today we are going to talk about how your gut bugs influence leaky gut. And we're also going to dive deeper into talking about how that goes further into influencing your overall health struggles, illnesses, diseases, things that you have going on. And I know we've talked about this subject before. You can always go back to the very beginning of my podcast where I talk about food sensitivities, probiotics, gut microbiome. But today I want to take a different twist and really dig deep in here because it's a subject that I absolutely love. And I have to be honest with you, when I first started learning it, it was quite difficult. It wasn't my favorite. I don't know if you guys feel like that when you're first learning, a topic, maybe a class with a teacher, or you're trying to learn something at work or a job, or maybe even a sport, and you just don't know it in the beginning. You're not good at it, and it's frustrating, right? I know when I was trying to learn basketball as a kid and couldn't do the layups, you end up throwing the basketball, you get so mad. So that's how it was learning about the gut microbiome, the testing. And then once I learned the testing, I have to take it into the clinical practice. And if you've listened to my podcast, you know that most of what I do today comes to what I clinically see with my patients. And I love trends too, because sometimes, we'll get people that have the same similar symptoms, the same similar behaviors, and we'll put together a protocol and it works with that trend well. So you have to pay attention clinically what's in front of you. Well, the one term I realize that patients have trouble with is what's the gut microbiome. So I want to talk about that today, and I want to go into the bugs that are in there, and there's good bugs and bad bugs and pests and things like that, and really try to help you understand how crucial this one piece is to your health. I call the gut microbiome the terrain of your body. So in order to fully understand this, think of it as a garden. And to have a really good garden, whether it's a vegetable garden or a flower garden, you have to have a robust and healthy soil. And I'm not an expert, believe me, what goes into the soil. I'm by no means a green thumb, gardener. So forgive me for those of you that are. But I believe that some of the key ingredients or the key elements have to be in the soil would be like carbon, calcium, nitrogen, I think phosphorus, sulfur. And these minerals are going to work together in a very harmonious balance to provide life and food for the flowers or the vegetation, vegetables, whatever you're growing, trees. And even the microorganisms, these little bugs that are in there, the good ones, they need these key elements in a harmonious state. They need them to be healthy, for them to be healthy. And I'm going to get into this. But the whole point is if the soil is sick and not balanced, you're going to get a sick garden. You'll get a garden with weeds and unwanted pests and rot and poor flowers or, poor vegetables. But if the soil's healthy, if it's balanced and it's robust, you'll get a beautiful, healthy garden. So think of your gut, your intestines, right? They're 20-something feet long, and we're talking mostly about the large intestine. But if you think in there, inside that tubing is what we're calling the microbiome or the terrain of your body. And I'm saying this because within there's hundreds, if not trillions, of good bacteria, good bugs, good microorganisms. And I'm using all these different terms because these are the different terms and jargon you'll hear. And they're pretty interchangeable, but you wouldn't know that, if I didn't say that. So whether we're saying good microbiome, good bugs, good microorganisms, good things, right? Inside but they're bacteria, they're organisms. They're healthy for you, but they're only healthy. Here's the key to this is if they're in a harmonious balance, just like we talked about some of these key elements in the soil. So the gut microbiome is the terrain inside your gut. It's the soil. And just like the soil in the garden, it must be balanced and robust, right? With these healthy microorganisms. This is going to give you a healthy gut. It's going to give you a functioning gut wall, which in another podcast will really get more in depth with this gut wall. And it also will keep the weeds and the pests and the icky things under control. We're going to talk about that in a second. The gut microbiome, it's made of these thousands of good organisms. They have to live in harmony with each other. This harmony is going to create the health within the body, the health within the gut, right? It also makes for a killer immune system because 80% of our immune system is in the gut. I'm going to repeat that because it's so huge. 80% of our immune system is in the gut. And when you're facing a cold, when you're facing sickness, when you're always getting run down, when you're saying always get sick, or you have these symptoms, even if it's allergies, right? Everyone's like, oh, it's just allergies. It's an immune system response. And if your immune system isn't doing well, 80% of it is in the gut. So if the gut's not healthy, why would the immune system be healthy, right? You could even think of a pool. You can think of a beautiful, fish tank. Right? If the water isn't healthy within the fish tank, the fish aren't going to be healthy. The terrain, the environment won't be healthy. And that's what we're talking about. We have an internal environment, an internal terrain of the body, and it needs to be healthy, right? So this is why I'm having this podcast, because these little gutsies and these gut bugs matter. They matter for a healthy body. Now, let's break it down a little bit further, because I think if you've listened to me, I've taught that one before. I think that we hopefully grasp that. But if not, if it's the first time you heard it, great. I want to go a little deeper. We're going to dive a little deeper. When that gut microbiome or that terrain is not balanced, so these good bacterias, these good ones, when I say good, I mean they're healthy. They're supposed to be there. When the good ones aren't balanced and the gut terrain is sick, right? The gut wall cannot work right. The immune system might not work right. And then depending on how long this has been going on and how much damage is created, your body might not be healthy, right? You might have some diseases or some illness or some symptoms you're severely struggling with. This is why when you come to me, I tackle the gut hard. I tackle the gut first, because what we're trying to do is get the immune system to get healthy. The body responds. These symptoms go away. The gut microbiome must be strong also to do other things. So, for example, we don't realize this, and this is where I want to go today, is that the gut microbiome has to be healthy, yes, for the gut wall to work properly. Yes, for the immune system to work properly. And yes, for other things to go right. But let's talk about some of these other things. I've been dealing a lot with hormones lately, and we're going to have some great podcasts on this. And I can't wait to share with you what's going to go on with hormones, both in infertility, fertility, trying to get pregnant, in trying to balance those years, those fertility years, in the perimenopausal years and in the menopause years. I have so much good stuff coming. But it starts right here. It really starts right here. So before I even start exploding into the hormone world, I want you to understand the microbiome. Things like estrogen actually has to be metabolized and broken down there. And I can tell from my stool test, it's been this trend I've been seeing. And now that I've been seeing it, the light bulb went on in my head and I was like, oh. And it's not 100%, but almost everyone I see, this certain marker in my stool test, I know if they have high estrogen. And then when I test their hormones, because they have all these symptoms and they're coming to me, they usually go to me, I just need my hormones tested, something's not right. But when I do the stool test in combination with the hormone test, I constantly see this trend of this one marker in the stool and in the gut being off, and then estrogen is high. And what it's telling me is the gut microbiome is off, and I have this marker not doing well, right? And what's happening is estrogen isn't being broken down. So we're getting an accumulation of estrogen in the body. Now, if you know anything about this, because I don't know everything, but I know that this is something like that most people know, is that when estrogen doesn't get broken down in the body and it's not utilized correctly, it tends to like to go to different parts of the body and hang out and party. And it's a very destructive party, or estrogen. It's one of those ones that come in and they party hard and they just make noise and destruction and ruin lives as they do it. So estrogen accumulates in the body, and it would love to go to estrogen receptors. And for women, it loves the breasts. So when you have too much estrogen in the body, you have to look at a few things, and that's not what this podcast is about. But one of the things we're looking at is the gut microbiome. And it's just huge for if you have an estrogen problem. The other things that go on in the gut microbiome is you need certain bacteria in there to break down to actually make or metabolize vitamins such as K and your Bs. So this is very similar too. Thyroid problems, women that are exhausted, chronic fatigue, neurological problems. We see a problem with Bs. I see the biggest deficiency I see across everybody are B deficiencies. They want to hit vitamin D hard. I just don't see it as hard as I see B's. B's I see almost, I would say, deficient in almost everybody. And it, again, could start from the gut, right? You could take as much B vitamins as you want. And you might come to me and go, no, it's not working. I could test you once, test you twice, test you 3 times, and your B's aren't moving. Guess where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to this beautiful gut microbiome. I'm going to look at these leaky gut bugs, right? These gut bugs. So there's just 2 examples, is the hormones and the vitamins needing your healthy, robust gut microbiome. Other things, brain needs it, right? Gut-brain balance, we'll talk about another time. Your thyroid needs it, your joints needs it, your nerves need it, your muscles, your organs, so on and so on. So your gut microbiome is super, super important. So what we're talking about is the terrain. We're talking about these good bacteria, and we want to make sure they're balanced. What happens when they're imbalanced is, okay, everything we talked about. But the next question you might have is, well, how do I fix this? Or how do I know what my imbalance is? So we have a stool test that tells us that. It's 50 something pages. And as I said in the beginning, I couldn't stand learning it, but I love it now. Sorry for my chairs creaking. And it provides me with so much information about your gut microbiome. The gut imbalance is what I call your gut print. It's specific to you. Your gut imbalance is yours and yours alone. And so the test is going to say to me, hey, these gut bugs, we're talking about the good ones. We haven't even gotten into the bad ones yet. The gut ones, the good ones, this gut microorganisms, they also call them commensal bacteria. That's another word in case you hear it or see it. Hey, they're not living harmoniously. This is the problem here. These are growing really too high. These aren't growing fast enough. This is the imbalance. This is what her or his gut print is. And then what I do, what you would be hiring me for if you're working with me, is I go and I dig deep. I dive deeper, and I try to find the probiotic that matches your gut imbalance. It's very specific. Here's the gut imbalance. The probiotic must have these 2 things in it, these 3 things in it, these 5 things in it. And then I match them. And that's how I fix the imbalance. I do it over and over. I've been doing it for years, and it's just beautiful. If you're having a probiotic that you're not getting any changes on, it's probably the wrong one for your imbalance. If you get worse on a probiotic, it's probably the wrong one that isn't for your imbalance. And that happens. That does happen. So that's really how you fix the imbalance. The other way you fix the imbalance is you take away the cause of the imbalance, which is a food sensitivity, which please go back and listen to one of my podcasts if you want to know about food sensitivities. Those are foods that enter the gut, and for some strange reason the immune system does not like that food, and it starts attacking it, and as it attacks it, it creates an inflammatory response in the gut, and it creates a gut imbalance. The other thing that I want to talk about is the pests that are in there. So we talked about the good bacteria, right? The gut bugs, the good things, the microbiome, all that stuff. But once in a while, in the soil, in the garden, you've got pests. You've got pests in the garden. And so gut pathogens, I look at them as 2 things. Now, I don't know if my definition is going to be accurate according to, medical jargon or an encyclopedia, but what I'm going to just summarize it for you in layman's terms so you can understand it, is gut pathogens are the pests in the garden. And they also can be the weeds in the garden, the overgrowths, things that overgrow and get out of control, right? So I'm looking at bacterial overgrowth. Sometimes the good bacteria can start overgrowing, and I call them the weeds, and they get out of control. And sometimes we have actual pests that enter the garden, and they maybe can come from water, food, soil, air. These pests can be parasites, bacteria, viruses, fungus, and also something like candida that already lives in the gut. That can be an overgrowth. It's just a weed. It's just running out of control. So I kind of call those all pathogens. For lack of the best words, they're pathogens or little pests or critters in your terrain. If any of these critters live within your terrain, they can cause a leaky gut. They can impact that nervous system and really harm it. They can create many unpleasant symptoms as well as health problems. So when we're talking about leaky gut, and we're talking about what causes a leaky gut, we have to look at the gut microbiome, because there's 2 causes in there. There's the imbalance, And then there's the gut pathogens. So these are two huge causes of leaky gut. And then leaky gut is really that inflammatory process that goes on in there. And food sensitivities are another cause. So you have three main ones. But then the whole gut microbiome is really off. And it's fixable. That's the good news. But it's a like domino effect. And I wanted today to have you guys realize what really this microbiome is and how incredible its impact or its connection is with the body and your health. Now, what can happen is as this microbiome imbalance gets worse, and if you have a pest in there, let's say that gets worse, and it just perpetually happens and you don't know about it. Possibly you're getting some symptoms. Possibly you're getting like, I have bloating, I have constipation, I have diarrhea, I have pain when I eat, pain after when I eat. This inflammatory process can cause the gut wall damage. And then what happens is this inflammatory process can leave the gut wall and get into the bloodstream, and it can travel. And this is where we can have this gut-body connection. So your symptoms could leave the digestive area and possibly get into the joints, the muscles. So we have like a lot of autoimmune responses here actually get better when we fix the gut. Definitely joint problems, rheumatoid arthritis, bone problems, nerve, muscle. Thyroid is actually a really big one. If you read about thyroid, Hashimoto's, autoimmune, we have a gut issue typically connected with it. Polycystic ovary syndrome, and I touched a little bit on hormones and estrogen problems, infertility problems, imbalances, and things like that. Chronic fatigue syndrome is big. So there's so much to this gut-body connection, and where it comes down to is this beautiful gut microbiome. Now, I know it's a lot. Believe me, it took me years to really, really understand this. And but the good news is I figured it out. We could help. And so if you ever need my help, please don't hesitate to reach out to me to discuss your microbiome, and we can dig deeper. Again, you can try a probiotic. I suggest getting a 40 billion one in the units, and you could meet with me a consultation too, and I can show you a few that work for the majority of my patients. But the best way to really get better is to know which probiotic fits your gut print, your gut imbalance, and just match you and your gut together instead of guessing. Because a lot of times when you go to the health food stores and you buy an expensive probiotic with good intentions, you're throwing a dart at a dartboard and you're just hoping that you hit it. And I've done that myself. I remember buying a really good one, and it was probably like $50 a month or something in the refrigerated aisle, super, super healthy one. And I did my stool test and I looked at my results and I was like, and I turned over my probiotic and not one thing in there I needed. Now, maybe it was because I was taking it, right? But I was like, all right, this is, I need to switch. And at the time I was having chronic diarrhea issues, so that probiotic wasn't really helping that microbiome problem. So all I had to do was switch the brands. I had to look at the ones that the test showed me that I needed. Okay, I need these gut bugs in my probiotic, and I switched it and found the one that would match my results. So it's not complicated for you, because I'm going to dive deep with you. Okay, so I want to thank you for this podcast. And again, remember that this isn't treating you over a podcast. This is educational information for you to learn how to live a healthier life. Thank you.